Hi folks, Rick here. You can see I've got my brown jacket on. It means it's back to winter time. I watch a lot of my videos. I do a lot of videos over the winter time because it's too cold to ride, and so it's a good time to do some maintenance on my bike. So I do a lot of videos on maintenance during the winter times, as well as some upgrades, and this is my work jacket. And so as you watch a lot of my videos, like, man, that guy's got the same shirt on the whole time, and that's it. This is just a nice wool jacket that I like wearing. So it's that time again. I got my bike here in the garage, and the video today is going to be about an annual maintenance. And I want to show you guys how to do an in-depth maintenance on your bike over some type of the winter time, a seasonal break, summertime. You know, a lot of us have, problems in the winter time where you can't ride and you got a couple months off. Maybe it's between race seasons if you're a race. If you got good weather, maybe it's too hot during the summer, maybe your kids got something going on a period of time, but whenever you got a few weeks or a month or two or whatever it's going to be off where you're not going to ride the bike, that's when you want to stop and do some annual maintenance. And from an annual maintenance, it's not just stuff that's in your service manual. Anything that's in your service manual you're going to want to do, but what I'm going to show you today is something that's a little bit more in depth. When you're, I race mine, but even if you don't race, and maybe you're going on a long trip somewhere, the last thing you want to do is to get into next year, next season, what have you, and your bike not work, or you get out on the trail and it dies. If you race, and your bike breaks down, the first race or two, that could put you out of the championship contention right there. Your whole year's shot right off the gate. Right out of the gate. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you do everything possible, comb this thing over, and make sure everything is 100%. And that's what I'm going to kind of show you how to do. What I'm not going to show you is the physical maintenance itself. I've got specific videos already for all the different items we're going to do. So I'll reference those in this video, so you can, if you want to learn how to actually do the maintenance, you can click on that one. It'll show you in depth. But I'm going to show you today is what maintenance you need to do, as well as a lot of checks. The checks is really probably going to be one of the more important things. Here is all the various items that you need to check to make sure that when the season starts back up, your bike is 100% ready to go. So with that, the very first thing we need to do here before we even get started, and that's wash your bike. I can't tell you, I'm going to mention washing your bike throughout this whole video because it's a very important part of your maintenance program. And so to start off with, take it out, do a really good wash job on your bike before you stick it back in your garage and get ready to go. You're not looking to do a high gloss shine or detailed. That's fine. If you like doing that, please go out and do it. What we're trying to do here is get rid of all the dirt, all the grime, and mainly the mud off of anything. And so do your best to scrub everything, hose it out, get the blaster, get all your, underneath everything you can. You want to get it just as much garbage off that thing as you can. As we go through the bike, again, I'm going to continue to mention there, anytime you take something off, you clean it. When you take something off, it's going to give you access to something new. Go into there and clean it. So this is going to be, cleaning this bike is going to be really from start to finish as we go. When we get done, we don't want any mud, dirt, or grime on anything, on any wires, any connectors, any pivot points. Everything's going to have to be spotless, ready to go. That also, getting it clean allows you to do a better inspection. So step number one is go ahead and get your bike washed. From here, there's a couple things we want to do. We want to get ourselves a list going, and I'm going to put down a list in the video here of all the things here that I'm going to go through today. But you want to start off with a parts list for yourself. So parts list is also doesn't hurt to have. You can add to my maintenance list as well, but go through your service manual and see if there's anything that's due. Maybe it's time for a coolant change. Put that down your list. That's a check we're going to do, but it's not necessarily a maintenance item, but it may be a maintenance item for you. See if there's anything on there that you have to do. You want to make sure, depending on what type of bike you have, I may not cover everything. There may be things that you like to do that I don't cover. There may be things that your bike has that mine doesn't have. That's okay. This maintenance program will actually work really, it's going to be pretty universal whether you have an ATV, a motorcycle, or whether it's a Yamaha, Honda, or anything. It's really going to be very similar. But again, go through my list, add to it. If you got some stuff there that I didn't do that you like or think's important, put it down in the comments by all means. But what we want to do here is get our list of things we're going to do. We also need to get a list of things that we need to buy. So what is it? So as we get going through this thing, the very first thing we're going to do, and it's not necessary in any order, but we want to do is do all our checks first so we can get the list of things that we need to get on order or go down to the parts store there and buy for ourselves. So if anything now you need to know, go ahead and write it down. Get yourself a list. Like I know already, I'm going to need some oil. I'm completely out of oil. Writing that down. I'm going to need a filter. There's a couple things that I know I need to replace, like my tether switch. It's been on there for 2 years. I had a problem with it one time. I think it's just been such a muddy year this year. I think that thing's clogged up full of mud. I'm not screwing with it. I'm not going to try cleaning it out. That's just a time bomb waiting to happen. It's a cheap thing, so I'm going to put that down on my list. So anything that you know that you're going to need, if you're going to do any upgrades, get those parts list. If you order stuff online, a lot of times you get free shipping over a certain amount. So getting your list of stuff allows you to kind of spread those things out, but you also want to get it down and then get all your maintenance items there on order. So when it comes time to do the maintenance, once we get done with our checks, all the stuff's in, then you can switch over to start doing your maintenance and get going. I like to leave some stuff, like I got a bunch of maintenance products like sprays and that kind of stuff. I probably won't buy that kind of stuff to the end because as I get going through this bike, sure as heck, I'm going to find something new that I forgot to buy or I didn't see before, or maybe I'm doing an actual physical maintenance and there's actually something in there that's broke and I'll need some additional parts. That way you can just kind of plan out and make sure you save it on your freight and what have you. So again, get your service manual out, run through it, see if there's anything extra we're going to do. Get a list of parts. Anything that you know now you're going to do, have that ready to go. We're going to add to that parts list. Again, get your bike washed. And so it's starting off. And from here, we're going to get on with the check. So let's get started with that. Okay, so we're on to do some of our first checks. I've got my plastics off here. You can see here all this dirt. This is what I mean about we're going to be constantly cleaning this bike as we go. As we get taking further stuff off, we're going to keep cleaning. I've got my rear fender still on this one. They're just a little bit extra pain getting off, so I'm going to leave them on and just kind of work around them there. But I took all the front stuff off so I can get all to my wiring really good up to my radiator and that kind of stuff there. So I like to start up here on the front on my checks. Very first thing we want to do is just some simple stuff here. We're going to go around. Want to just go ahead and spin the tires here. Just kind of check your rim for run out. Make sure you ain't got no bends in it. You want to check your tire over here really good. Make sure it's in good shape. My edges here, I got a lot of tread on this tire, but the edges here are starting to get a little rounded. For me, I try to keep this thing 100%. So for the new season here, I'm going to go ahead and replace these tires and I'll sell these ones. These will make someone like a trail rider. This would be like brand new set of tires for them, but I'm going to go ahead and sell these. So my rim and tires is all pretty good shape. I'm going to need to add a set of tires here to my list. Next thing we want to do is just grab the top and the bottom and just kind of move it like this. I want to check to make sure that there's no play in our ball joints, no play in our A-arms. There should be very little on that thing. You can go side to side a little bit here too, just gently. It's obviously going to turn your wheels. What you're checking for is any slop that you may have in your tie rod ends. And so where you're spinning it also, just make sure it's no grinding or nothing coming out of your bearings here and everything's in good shape. So with that here, I'm going to go ahead and pull this off and we're going to do some further checks. All right, so I've got my tire off. Here's my brake pad. Still the wear indicators here are still good, but this thing isn't going to make another season. It's pretty shot. I look down here at my brake rotor. You can see here a little bit. It's a little scored, but it's not feeling too bad. There's so much mud on this thing, I'm not really going to do much about it. but you want to inspect there, make sure brake pads are good. If they're anything less than perfect, it's time to replace those. So I'm adding a set of brake pads to my list. I'm going to keep this rotor, just double check on my hub here, everything's in good shape. Again, now we've kind of got some, more access to stuff where you want to check stuff. Just check your shock bushings, make sure they're not loose. This one's here, this isn't slop, it's just how the shock is, but they all look good. You can kind of move your suspension up and down. Just double check everything in here. Just giving everything a once over. Nothing's really bad. So as you're looking in here, keep cleaning. You can see inside there is really dirty. Just keep after it. But this is it. So we've pretty much got this front side down. I'm going to swap over here just a little bit as well. Just double check here on the front side. Make sure there's nothing. Everything's looking good on here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the other side, and everything's good. So far, I'm doing pretty good. I need a set of brake pads. All my front end components there, all these are brand new, so I didn't anticipate anything wrong with them. But that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, and then we'll continue on with the inspections. Okay, we moved to the back here. Got a few things kind of taken apart, doing a couple things at once here. But again, start off very similar here to the back. Check your tires, make sure there's no issues there. Again, I'm going to replace these. You want to spin it there, checking your wheel for run out. Well, also when you're back here, just kind of spin and check your axles on both sides here, and make sure they're not wobbling like that. Make sure you got nothing bent. Check all that out, make sure it's good. It's a good idea if you take your chain off here, spin your wheels really good, check your carrier bearings, making sure they're all nice and smooth, there's no problems on there, no visual problems. Check your brakes. I pulled these off already. The brake pads are shot like the front ones. Actually, the rears are a little worse. So I need to go ahead and get all new brakes on this one, add that to my list. You want to check your swing arm here, move it side by side here, make sure there's no excessive play on the thing there. We're also going to want to remove our shock here, and then check up and down as well, and make sure that our play here. I haven't got my shock off yet, but you want to check it off and play. It's another good way to go ahead and check side by side. But you want to check your bushings. We're going to end up greasing those on some maintenance, but you want to check to make sure there's no play in there. Check your sprockets and chains for proper tension. Again, I got a video that shows you how to do that, but check your sprockets for grooving, make sure they're good shape. Make sure you check the stretch on your chains, make sure it's still within spec. Also visibly check it. This is a continuous change, it doesn't have a master link. Later on in the service, when I pull the swing arm off, I'll pull this off and do some checks with it. If you got a master link, pull it off, lay it down, visually do some inspection. It's a good time to clean it, but also make sure there's no stuck links there. So you want to make sure that each one of these links bends nice and easy, and this has got chain wax on it, so it's really stiff. But you want to make sure there's no bad spots in it, like there's not something in here, one of these links or something there isn't bad. So check all your chain really good, check all your sprockets, make sure all that's in good shape. Again, visually inspect everything back here. You want to check your shock, check your linkage, all your linkage bearings, make sure all that's in good shape. I got no really play in this thing. When I pull off my shock here, I'm going to do a little bit more inspection on that one. Again, it's a new shock. I don't anticipate any problem. But once I get my shock off here, I'm going to move my my linkage bearings, make sure there's no issues. I just checked them here not too long ago. They should be in good shape. You want to check your chain slides as long as you're doing it with your chain. Reach up under here if you got a chain roller, all the way up under here, and check that one. This one, yeah, I'm going to do a further inspection on this one here when I get my swing arm off and check that, but I'm pretty sure that's feeling like it's bad. I didn't realize where it was sitting. I put a new one on there, but when I hose off all the mud, I didn't know I was really squirting that chain roller pretty much directly with the hose. I didn't realize I was doing that for quite some time. Now I think I got the grease out of the darn thing. I didn't know it was where I was trying to get the mud out. I didn't know that's exactly where that darn chain roller is because it's tough to see. But I think I screwed that one up and it feels like it's a little dry. So I'll do a double check on that one. Visually, again, inspect everything in here. Make sure your hubs, sprockets, your brake rotors, everything's in good shape. While you're back here, if you got other accessories back here, I got my shock reservoir. Check that one here. Check over all your bars, make sure it's good. Give your muffler a shot on this thing. Make sure there's no big dents. Make sure everything's in good shape. Check your heat shielding, all that kind of stuff. Make sure everything's good and tight. Make sure there's no dings or dents in it, and you should be in good shape there. So far here on the back, I'm going to have some rear tires. My chain, so far, I've checked it. It seems to be in good shape. I'm going to pull it off, though, and really do a good spot. I do need brake pads back here again. My wheels look good. Bearings look good. Axle looks good. So far, not a lot of expense in the back here. So that's it. So let's go ahead and do a couple of more checks. All right, folks, so a couple of things here we want to do as well. We got our plastics off. We want to kind of follow all of our electrical. We want to check our batteries, check all our connectors and stuff. You can see right here, here's a couple of our key connectors here. They are all full of mud. And come up here on the front, look down there. These ones here are all full of mud. Check your wiring. We want to end up cleaning this thing. We're going to end up pulling our tank, clean all the wiring off. Any of this stuff needs to get sprayed down with contact cleaner. You pull it apart, put some dielectric grease in there. We want to do all that. Want to come up here on the handlebars. Really check all our brake levers, check all our switches, follow our cables, make sure our cables are in good shape. We want all there. Make sure our throttle operation over here is working in good shape. Make sure there's no issues. We want to check your tether. Again, make sure that's working. I had a problem with mine, and I know as bad as this year was, that this thing here is got a lot of mud in there. I did spray it out with contact cleaner. It's working again, but I'm not chancing that one. I probably ruined it. So that's on my list there. I'm going to add that to the list. Let's see here what else we got. I'm checking a list here. Yes, we want to go ahead and do that. All our cables. We want to inspect our parking brake cable here all the way to the back as well. Check it all the way down to the cable as it comes down to that area. Also, any other cables you got, if you've got a reverse, you want to check your reverse cable that goes down. Here's something I found here though. If you look here, this thing is broken. So I think this is, I hit this with my knee when I smacked into a tree. So I'm going to need to add a new reverse lever symbol on mine. I use the heck out of that one. We want to look over, obviously, our grips, stuff like that. Make sure they're in good shape, don't need to be replaced. Check your brake fluid. If it's old, put that on your list. You got a brake fluid reservoir down here. I'll check that one here. It's all dirty. I got to clean that one off. Want to check your steering here really good. Just turn it side by side. Make sure there's no looseness here in your steering stem bearing down here at the bottom. Also, down under here, where your actually steering arm is, you can just give that some yanking. Make sure everything's turning nice and smooth. There's no grinding. Again, we want to check down under here a little bit farther. Might get a better look at it. Here, we want to check our steering dampener, all our arms, make sure all this is in good shape. There's no issues with that. Let's see what else we got. We want to check. Let's see here. Want to check obviously up here. Check your radiator fluid. Make sure it's good shape. your reservoir it's got full. Check the visibility here of your radiator. Make sure it all the way through. This one's got a lot of dirt. I'm going to need to spend some time cleaning it. If there's any of these little fins that are bent here, you need to get those straightened out. Everything really helps on that. You know, from this point here, we've got mostly all of our inspections here done from an inspection. You really want to just go around this thing and just check over anything that you might do. Get your head under stuff, look for stuff that's broken, and other than that, we're about ready to go for maintenance here. So I've got right now on my list, if I can remember, I'm gonna need tires, I'm gonna need brake pads for sure, oil filter, new spark plug for certain. I'm probably going to potentially need some Nerf bar netting. Down here, this stuff is really stiff. On the other side, it's broken. I'm not sure if I can have to look at that, see if I need to replace that or not. Well, I'll check that. Obviously, probably going to get a new tether for sure, a brake assembly here. Yeah, another thing I forgot to check is check your brake lights, headlights, that stuff too. Make sure all that's working. I think I have some just odds and end items. But I think as far as stuff that's broken, needs to be replaced, we're going to go ahead and do that. In the process here, let me see if I can keep from getting tangled up on something, which I think I already am. A couple other things here. Let me just show you guys something here. So in the midst of, you can kind of see some of these bolts here. So in the midst of changing my tires, I got this one here off. I'm starting to go ahead and change them. Pulling out my beadlock wheels. You can see here the rust on these bolts right here. And so you got one clean spot on the end where it was actually in there. And then the rest of it is just going through plastic and mud and everything else gets in there and it's all corroded. So when you see something like this, if you got one or two minor ones and it's just minor, you can wire brush it. But if they're this bad, this is holding your wheel, your beadlock wheel on. You know, those things get pounded, they get smashed into. You know, you don't want to chance stuff like that. Order some new bolts. So I done that as well. So this is just something else here. You want your bike 100%. Don't put something like this back in there. Replace these. So you can order these. I got Gold Speed wheels. They make bolt kits. They're cheap. They're actually cheaper than you can get them at the hardware store. So I just ordered a set like that. From here, again, we're on a little bit of just getting into the maintenance. One other thing here that you need to think about is anything that's due. So one thing here that's due on mine is repacking the exhaust. It looks good. I've ordered a repacking kit. We're going to go ahead and take care of that. But check other things on there as well. But I think I'm good to go with my parts, so I'm going to get that stuff on order. And then here, we'll get started on some maintenance items, and I'll give you a list of stuff there that you really should do each year as well. All right, so the first item on the maintenance list here for me, again, it doesn't necessarily make any difference what order you go into. I just happen to be at the back, so I decided here to go ahead and start with servicing my swing arm. So you can see I got my swing arm off. Here's our bearings here. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I clean and grease that. Obviously, this is upside down, so underneath the swing arm. I'm going to clean all this really good. So you want to make sure you get your bearings greased, grease your bolt really good. If you do this regularly, this bolt will come out. I literally just, once I loosen the bolt up, I literally just push the bolt out by my finger. That's how easy it came out because I serviced it last year. You keep this up. This is really simple to do. You just, again, you remove your shock, and you can see in the video there, I'll show you there, but it's super simple to do. But if you keep this up, that bolt that goes through here, your swing arm bolt, it won't rust, it won't corrode in there, and it comes out nice and easy. And it really makes this a quick job. So we're going to go ahead and continue to grease that. I like to use waterproof grease. We're also going to, obviously, got to clean all our engine here. We want to get down here. We're going to clean up our linkage, really do a good inspection on that. Now we got it off here again. Grease all that. If you've got grease fittings or anything here, ability to grease your shock bolts, go ahead and do that. Your bearings here, these ones don't. They're also brand new. Again, since I got mine, if you can see it here, since I got this off my, I'm right in the way there. Well, anyway, my chain roller, I'm able to get to it better. It's bad, so I do got one of those coming. I'm gonna replace that. And I'm gonna spend a little bit of time here double checking my chain. And so that'll be the first item on the list here, greasing the swing arm bolt. All right, got my swing arm back together. Just a couple of notes there. I'm sure it's in a video there. When you put your swing arm back, make sure your chain, if you got a endless chain like I got, make sure it's on both sides of the swing arm. Make sure your brake cables and that kind of stuff's on the top side of the swing arm. Everything's in good shape. Again, make sure you lube everything good. Take the time to clean your linkage. Lube all points of your linkage. Make sure it's all in good shape. Inspect everything. Make sure it's all clean and everything. Good lube on there. Go ahead and put your chain back on. Lube your chain. Make sure it's all adjusted properly and everything. And that'll be, everything really should be in good shape back here. So that should be it. Next thing when we're back here, we're going to do is we want to go ahead and check our muffler. I've got mine unbolted here. I'm going to just start it on it. What you want to do here is a couple things there. On mine, I need the exhaust packing done, so I'm going to go ahead and repack it. If you've got a spark arrestor in it, though, go ahead and pull that spark arrestor out. Make sure it's good and clean. That way it'll be ready to go for the season. Other than that, there's not much maintenance on there. Just clean the spark arrestor. If it needs to be repacked. And with that, we're on to the next thing. All right, folks, we moved to the top of our bike now from the back. I'm just going to kind of go over all the stuff on the top. So basically, I've got my gas tank off now. Obviously here, it's going to get to me a lot better in my fuel injection system. I got to continue cleaning. You can still see a lot of dirt. I like to get it all the way tore down, and then I'm just going to spend out here a lot of time cleaning. It's kind of one of the last things I like to do. But now that we're on top, the other maintenance item you want to do is go ahead and check and adjust your valves. Pretty easy to do. Just follow your manual. I've got a video out there on that, but we're going to go ahead and get started on that. All right, folks, we've got the valves done. Next thing here is your steering stem grease. Now, if you look here, sorry about the shadow here, look how nasty that is. I just greased the heck out of this year. But what happens is all the dirt and mud and stuff comes right down, and despite this little cover here, it gets down in there as best it can. And so you can see here, see all this dirt and grime and stuff on there. Let me get out of the darn light there. You see all that dirt and grime. So if you got excess play, you darn sure want to do this at least once a year. If it's muddy here, I'm going to probably recommend twice a year now that I'm looking at this. Because I just done a really good job last year. But for these Raptors anyway, these bushings here are really cheap. And since I've got the bike down this far, I'm just going to replace the darn thing. I'm not going to reuse the darn thing there. So you might think about that. Some of the stuff, if it's going to take you a while to get to, and it's only a few dollars, it's probably good to go ahead and just replace it here. I have, hitting a lot of stuff. It's a lot of bumps, jerks. This thing I'm sure is wore out, especially with all that mud and crap in there. I'm sure it's a shot anyway. So anyway, this is the next item on the list. Make sure you grease your steering stem. All right, folks. As long as we're on top here, we want to continue up on our top end here. We're going to start off with our handlebars. Really want to start on one side and work our way across and service anything. Take your switch off here, and you really want to double check the inside, make sure it's nice and clean and no mud. I've taken this apart and just had mud come out of it. I just recently cleaned it, so I'm inspecting it now. It looks really good. Next thing you want to do is do all our cables. And so if you don't have one of these little cable lubers, darn sure worth getting one. They work pretty good. We're just going to stick this in here. Hopefully. Just give it a couple squirts. And that's it. This one's lubed. So we really want to go from this side again, service everything on this thing. So I need to get I've got a parking brake. I'm going to service this, clean up my handlebars. I've got some suspension here. I'm going to check these things, make sure they're clean. And then I'm just going to go across here and let me take my phone off here for a second. All right. Yeah, so I'm just going to go across here, and you know, I need to do my kill switch. I got a new one of them I'm going to replace. Check my throttle cables. If you've got, well, it doesn't really matter what kind you got there, but if you got a throttle cable, you want to service that with some cable lube, but also check on the inside. Apply a little grease to areas that need to be greased. This Hermosa here has got bearings in it, so you want to just put a little bit of lube in that, make sure everything is good. But check everything as you're going. Check your brake fluid, everything on your handlebars there. Make sure it's good. Everything on the top of your bike here will work, and you'll be in good shape. So let me go ahead and get started here. I'm going to finish the cables and go over here. I got to replace my, replace my little tether switch there that's full of mud, and then I'll just continue on over. So let me get after that. All right, folks. Once you get all your handlebars done, before you get putting back your tank and stuff here, I'm going to do this over the whole bike, but you want to get some silicone spray and just spray down everything underneath your tank. You just spray it down, get all the spots that you're not going to be able to get once you get this thing together here, but you just spray it down really good. What that does there, it protects all your wires, keeps it, makes it a little bit more waterproof, just makes it keep looking good, keeps it all protected. But get all your rubber stuff here really good, and just let it sit there. It'll dry up after a bit, but that's the last step. We want to do everything under there, and then we're going to go ahead and put our tank on, and we'll be getting ready here, almost ready to finish this up. Got a few more steps to do. Okay, well, we're back up front here. Kind of get into the home stretch. So a few things we got to do up on the front here. I've got my tires on. I went ahead and put on my new brake pad, so everything's in good shape there. So a couple things. If you got yourself a steering dampener, you want to go ahead and service that. You know, look at the recommended on there, but probably once a year you need to change the oil. Definitely take all your linkage apart in there, grease everything, make sure it's in good shape. Again, make sure you inspect everything up here. You want to grease all your A-arm fittings, make sure all they're in a good shape. Then we want to do a few things here on the alignment. So it really depends on what kind of adjustments your bike have. But if you got caster adjustments, now's a good time to check. Make sure they're both aligned on both sides, set where you want to. If you want to try new settings, now's a good time to go ahead and do that. Make sure you get that all set up. Once that's done, what we want to do from this point then is go ahead and drop our bike down. I'm not going to do that on mine yet, but get your gas tank on, get everything on your bike, set it down on the ground. You want to roll it forward a couple times, jump up and down on it to get your suspension set. Make sure everything's settled on there. And it's a good idea at this point in time here to check your ride height. It's not just a quick measurement there. Go ahead and check that. Make sure you got the proper rake, about 1/4 to 3/4 inch, depending on your bike and the parameters of that thing there. There's not necessarily a perfect setting there, but you definitely want a little bit of your front end a little bit higher than the rear. Double check that, make sure everything's set to where you want to. Make sure your suspension hasn't settled weird or something like that. So it's just a good check to do. Once you're happy with it with your ride height there, you want to check your camber adjustment. That's the in and out, side to side of your wheels. If it's adjustable on yours, if it's not, don't worry about it. But if it is, go ahead and check that. Make sure they're equal on both sides. Make sure they're set where you want them. And then the last thing here we want to do on our suspension is check the toe in. So almost all bikes have a toe in adjustment there. That's your front to back adjustment there. You want about 1/8 to 1/4 inch typically towed in to your front tires, or front part of your tires here are closer than the rear. And so double check that. You'd be surprised how fast that comes out, especially if we're hitting a lot of ruts, rocks, and those types of things. So go ahead and check that. And then everything's ready to go here on the front. At this point in time here, we're just about ready to wrap up stuff. So there's a couple last things we want to do. Obviously here, we've got a lot of maintenance here. We haven't even done a basic service yet. So I like to do that at the very end. I'll probably do that. I still got like another month here or so of the winter. So I'll probably even wait till the end there just to make sure I don't get a last minute decision to do something else. I like to kind of do that at the very end. But you need to go ahead and clean your air filter, make sure all that's in good shape, get that serviced. change your oil filter, add that to the thing. You also want to pull your spark plug. Pull your spark plug out and check the condition of it there. You want to make sure that the fuel burn is good. It's not getting too hot and running lean. It's not getting caked up full of stuff like it might be carbonated up. So make sure your spark plug's in good shape like that. Do a good visual inspection of that. Then go ahead and replace it there. I would not throw the spark plug back in there. Spark plugs should last you quite a while. They're cheap. Just replace the darn thing. That way you ain't got to worry about it. You'll have a good quick starting bike there when you get ready to go and the season starts up. So once we got all our service done, now there's some last minute things here we need to do on the bike here. So one thing we want to do is take our torque wrench and stuff. Take a torque wrench. Take a couple torque wrenches, actually, a couple different sizes, and some wrenches. Start on one corner of your bike and go around and check bolts. So especially here, your wheels, check the torque on all your wheels. Make sure they're all within specs the way you need them to. Anything that you've touched and removed, replaced, upgraded here recently, go back and check the thing there. So I've had the brake calipers off. I'm going to go back, put a wrench on each one of those things, make sure they're tight. I've had the rear carrier bearing loose back there to adjust my chain and stuff like that. I'm going to go back and check that. I've had my swing arm pivot bolt out. I need to go back and check that. Earlier in the year, I replaced a clutch. So my right side clutch cover case over there has been coming off. I need to go back and recheck those bolts on there thing, make sure nothing's coming loose. The factory stuff tends to stay on there pretty good. Once you remove it, sometimes the stuff starts to come loose into you again. So anything that you've upgraded or replaced, go back and check the torque on it. Also check other stuff. Check like your engine mounting bolts. You don't have to check every one. Just go in and random check stuff. Look at it. Just put a wrench on it. Make sure it's tight. Check your gear shifter, all that kind of stuff. Make sure everything's in good shape. Check your handlebars. We've done a lot of different items on that thing. Check the torque on everything. Make sure everything's tight. Also, if you've got bead lock, check the torque on your bead lock wheels. We've replaced these ones. I've already torqued them, but they've been setting for a while. So I'm going to go back here after they settle and then go back and check the torque on them there. Again, it's just rubber on there so it can set a little bit, but you always want to go through and double check all that stuff. Make sure it's good shape. Double check your tire pressure and you should be good to go. So let me look here on my list, see if there's any last minute things here that I forgot. Torque, yeah, so once we get this thing going here, everything's serviced. We want to go ahead and start it up, check our idle speed. It's a good thing to check, make sure your battery and everything's being charged. And then there's a couple things here just to think about also. It could be more time-based stuff. So again, check your manual on this or the manufacturer's recommendation. But check your brake fluid. Typically that's every 2 years you should be changing that. So if that's due, you should have changed that. Your coolant's every couple of years. So if that's time, change your coolant. Again, you should repack your muffler. Check your muffler on that one when it says to. Mine was due. I went ahead and did that. That ensures you got maximum performance. Your shocks should be serviced there. Again, check them. They recommend that. I think most places about every year. Mine are new, so I'm not worrying about it this year. I'm not sure personally if every year is the right. Maybe if you was a pro or something, you got somebody doing the maintenance for you, that's okay. For just an amateur like myself, I'm not sure every year is the right interval or not. I'll leave that up to you. That's a lot of work. Probably about $90 to send them. I don't know what the freight is, but probably they charge you about $90 to $100 to change the oil. It is something you want to do. If you haven't done them in a while, send yours off and have them serviced. That oil does get nasty in there. It could ruin your shocks. It also keeps them performing the way they should be. That stuff does wear out, so check it. Check when it's time to service your shock. You may need to do that one. And also, again, the steering dampener, as I said there, check that. That might be time to do yours as well. So we've got pretty much the whole bike done. Everything should be ready to go. I still got some cleanings, as much cleaning as I've been doing. I still got more to do. I'm going to keep mine going. I've got a little bit more time on mine. I've got almost all the maintenance done. I still got to change the oil and stuff. I got to put back my gas tank and stuff. I'm going to keep this stuff off again. I'll probably keep it in this state and finish that up at the very, very end. Again, just in case I decide to do something here last minute. But there's a couple other things here outside your bike just to make sure everything's going here. I put some things on the list here as well. Check over your riding gear. Don't overlook your riding gear. Make sure it's in good shape. Make sure you've cleaned it well. Tear your helmet apart. Wash all that stuff in there so it doesn't stink. Wash all your clothes. Make sure everything's in good shape. There's no cracks in your helmet. Your chest protector, if it's got any fasteners on it, make sure they're all tight. Your knee braces, make sure all the fasteners are tight, in good shape. Nothing's falling off, nothing's coming apart, nothing's lost off of anything. You got no rips, tears on anything. Your belt or your boots, all your buckles on there in good shape, nothing's falling off. Now's the time to make sure all that stuff's ready. If you need to get something new, you got plenty of time to get it. A lot of sales over the winter if it's winter time for you. So get all your gear in shape so that stuff's all ready to go. So when you pull it out, the other thing, make sure you're stocked up on stuff there. Make sure you got all the extra oils and chemicals like that. You got tear-offs, roll-offs for your goggles, gloves, all in that good shape there. Once we're done here, if you've got a portable toolbox you take with you, I've actually got a portable toolbox. That's actually my main toolbox that I'm using here. Make sure all that's put back together. All your tools are in it. Whatever you normally bring, double check, make sure it's all back where it needs to be. Your toolbox, if you've got a chemical bag, make sure all that's in there. You've got it fully stocked with oil, all your chemicals, rags, towels, anything you need, it's all in there ready to go. So when you first come out, not only is your bike ready to go, but when you show up there, to go out riding or you go up to your first race, you're not missing something there. That's just as bad as not having it. So double check all that stuff. Everything's in order. The last thing you don't want to leave out of this thing also is, if you've got a trailer. So if you load your bike on a trailer or a toy hauler or something like that, check that over. That can break down just as easy as anything else. So check over the tires on your trailer tire, check the wheel bearing, the brakes, the light, give everything a once over on that thing, make sure that's in good shape there. Last thing you want to do is have an incident there. You got all this work done and you're heading out for your first ride and you tear a tire off because the wheel bearing's gone out or something there. That'll put you out just as quick as having to break down your bike. So don't forget that kind of stuff as well. So with that, I've got a pretty good comprehensive list here. I'm going to put this file out there. I'll put a link somewhere, either in this video or at the bottom of there. I'll put a link to this file. You can download this sheet there. I got about 3 pages of stuff, of checks here to go through. But this should give you a pretty good idea what to do. It's pretty in-depth. It's a lot of work. It's taken me a couple of weekends here. I don't know, an hour's time. You could probably go through this honestly and probably do, if you really worked hard over the weekend and had all your stuff here, you could probably do it in a full weekend there. It is a lot of work. I spread it out. I like coming out here and tinkering, so I'll come out and do a couple hours and go in and do something else and come back out and save it for the following weekend there. So I got something to do here. So this is probably the 4th or 5th weekend for me. And unfortunately, I'm kind of worried that I'm actually getting done, and I still got a few more weeks to go this winter. So hope I don't get bored. That's one of the things I like doing, coming out here. It's one of the reasons why I'm not going to put it back together, because if I get too bored, I'll probably upgrade something, and I don't have to redo the same work twice. So with that, I hope this helps you. Again, you can't spend enough time on your maintenance like there. That's a critical piece on there. It's been my success this year. Actually, for the last couple years in racing, I'm not the fastest person out there by anything, but what I am is consistent. I show up to every race, I finish every race, my bike makes it through every race, and I may not get first place, but I finish. I don't get a DNF. A DNF can cost you big time, so I don't get those. I did have one problem this year. As I crashed, I tore off the front end of my bike. I wasn't able to get parts in. That did cost me, thank God. I was able to overcome that. But yeah, consistency is a big one for you. But whether you race or not, last thing you want to do is spend a lot of money as much, valuable time is. Go out for a long weekend, you spend a lot of money on gas, you got time off work, maybe take a couple of vacation days, and you get out there and you got bike problems. That's just not worth it. So spend some time here. Nothing I really did here cost a lot of money. There's a couple of things that I did know. I knew I was going to need a tether switch. I didn't know I was going to need brakes. Thankfully, I checked those ones. The rear ones, I don't even know why they were even stopping. I wasn't having any braking problems, but the back ones were completely shot. The front ones needed replaced. Glad I checked that. My steering stem bushing, you guys seen that thing? That thing was horrible. I just serviced that last year. good quality waterproof grease. I've taken care of it really well. That thing looked like it's been on there for 25 years and not touched. So that's an issue. I'm gonna have to start again doing that more often. But lucky I checked that. If I didn't check that thing, that could have caught me big time. My chain roller was going bad. That would have been another one. So there's a few things I caught here by checking this thing that I wouldn't have otherwise. Nothing was giving me problems, but going through and checking, I was able to catch some stuff. But I think more importantly than catching stuff like that, I'm probably preventing stuff. Going through, lubing all the cables, again, checking, cleaning everything, that's just going to prevent those problems from happening. So with that, I'll let you go. I think I've hopefully covered the bike from one end to the other. Again, bike might be slightly different, might have some of the stuff, might not have some stuff, but 90% of this stuff is pretty much universal to anything you do. I hope this helps you out. If it does there, again, please subscribe to my channel. Outside of that, we'll see you out there.